Hello everyone. I am going to attempt to teach you what you're going to learn coming up on Monday and Tuesday. However, if there's some remote learners, they may want to look at this, or those that need a second teaching, this is a good source for that. So, what we are going to do is an exploration on the 30, 60, 90 triangle. So it's going to start out with an equilateral triangle. Equilateral meaning that all the sides are congruent or equal in measure. And what that means is all those angles are equal in measure. So this is 60, this is 60, and this is 60. And then what they're going to ask you to do is take and cut that triangle in half. Now, when you cut that in half, not only does it split the side, so now we've got two pieces that are congruent here, but it also splits this angle. So now it's not a 60-degree angle, it's a 30 and a 30. So it splits that angle. So, and because of it being a 30, 60, or because of it being equilateral, it ends up meeting at a right angle. So you're going to start off with, say, a side that is 2. That means this side is 2 and that side is 2. That means this whole side, I'm sorry, I should have started with that, is 2. And then what that means is that since it splits that side, that means that this little piece is 1, and so is this little piece 1. So then they ask you, or they are going to ask you, to try and investigate a pattern. So I'm just going to redraw this here, sort of. Okay, so that we've got 60 degrees, 90 degrees, and 30 degrees. Now, we already did 45, 45, 90, which I may choose to recap at the end of this, just in case you missed that one. But right now, so this is, we'll call this X or H or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But this is 1 unit, and this is 2 units. You can't do that sideways, I guess. Anyway. So all I did was take this triangle and move it over here and make it bigger. So when I do Pythagorean theorem, I'm going to do 1 squared plus x squared equals 2 squared. So then I'm going to have 1 plus x squared equals 4. And I'm going to subtract off, I'm going to move this down a bit so you can see my calculations now. I'm going to subtract off 1 from both sides. So I'm going to get x squared equals 3, and that gives me that x is square root of 3. Okay, so this ends up being square root of 3. Okay, and as we go along in our exploration of 30, 60, 90 triangles, I'm going to move you over here. Sorry for my big body in the way. As we go along in 30, 60, 90 triangles, they all follow the same pattern, just like all 45, 45, 90 triangles. So anytime you're looking at a 30, 60, 90 triangle, now I'm going to draw it differently, 30, 60, 90, that hypotenuse, whatever the length of the short side is, so whatever length this is, we'll call that x, okay? That is the one that's 1 unit in our other triangle. That means the hypotenuse, not hypotenuse, hypotenuse is twice that, because in our other triangle, and maybe I should compare it and do it bigger that way. So in this triangle, the hypotenuse is 2. The short side, what do I mean by the short side? It's the one across from the smaller angle, is 1. So if the relationship is this, whatever this side is, I'm going to call it x. We double it, that's the hypotenuse. And this the longer side, the side across from the 60-degree angle, is whatever that x value is times square root of 3. So let's say I don't have a 2, 2, 2 triangle. Let's say I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle where this is 60, this is 30, 90, okay? And I give you that this side is 10. So that means that the hypotenuse is twice as big as this smaller side. So sometimes when my students are struggling, I'll say 10 equals 2x and then solve. So, but I don't think it's a far stretch to say if this is 10, this is half of that, which is 5. And then you could do Pythagorean theorem, but why? Because they all follow the same format. So once you find that shorter side, this is going to be 5 square root 3. If I did, let's get rid of this, I'll do another one over here. Okay. If I gave you, I probably should draw something different, oriented differently, but let's say I gave you that this was 7. Now that's harder because this is supposed to equal to that. So that's about as hard as they come. So I am at this point going to take and put take x square root 3 and set that equal to 7. Now I need to get rid of the square root of 3. So I divide by square root of 3. So I get x equals 7 over square root of 3. And now if you haven't learned how to simplify radicals, then I'm not sure you know how to rationalize the radicals. You can't leave this on the bottom. Just like you can't leave a square root on the bottom. You can't leave a negative in the exponent. You can't have a fraction inside a decimal. These are all things that math is like no. So what you do is you multiply by 1. And 1 is kind of one of those things that can morph into different shapes. So what we're going to do is multiply by 1, but that 1's going to be square root of 3. There. Square root of 3 over square root of 3. And what's going to happen is this on the top, when we multiply fractions, we go straight across. So that's 7 root 3. And on the bottom, we have square root of 3 times square root of 3, which ends up being square root of 9, or square root of 3 squared, if you like that one better. But either way, it ends up being 3. So that tells you what x is. So the side across from the 30-degree angle, the side across from the 30-degree angle is x, which means that this is 7 square root 3 over 3, right? And, sorry for this, there. Maybe I should just zoom you out. So the side across from the x, or across from the 30-degree angle, is the shortest side, which is x, which we have just found. So that's 7 root 3. And then to get the hypotenuse, we would take 2 times that. So we would get 14, which is 7. So we'd multiply by 2 over 1. Okay? So we'd have 14 root 3 over 3 for that. Okay? So that's about as hard as they come. And it's mostly because of this business. This one right here is kind of the medium version. If they gave you this, the easy version would be that this might be 15. Then that would be 30, and this would be 15 root 3. Okay? So this is the version that's the hardest, mostly because you have to rationalize that denominator. Okay? Now, I did promise that I would recap 45, 45, 90 triangles. So I'm going to do that over here real quick. 45, 45, let me do that. 45, 45, 90 triangles are like this. Oops. Boom, boom, boom. 90 degree. It's a corner, and you're doing your project on this, so this should be relatively review anyway. And because it's a 45, 45, 45 degrees here and 45 degrees there, that means that those base angles or those angles are congruent, which means their corresponding sides are congruent according to Euclid and his buddies. So whatever side this is and this is the same, right? And if I want to know what that is, I'm going to do x squared plus x squared equals question mark squared, right? So that's x squared, and x squared is 2x squareds. Question mark squared. Actually, I don't want to teach it this way. I'm sorry. So, because we want to talk about numbers and relate the numbers. And we did an exploration about this. So let's just do this. 1, that makes this one 1. And that means that 1 squared plus 1 squared equals hypotenuse squared, just like I did in the classroom. So that's 1 plus 1 is hypotenuse squared. That's 2 equals hypotenuse squared. And to find out the hypotenuse, I have to take the square root. So the hypotenuse ends up being square root of 2, which you cannot see according to what I got here. There, square root of 2, which ends up being square root of 2. And then we did a whole exploration that you should have turned in where whatever the length of the side is, so we called this L and this L, we figured out that L squared plus L squared equals 2L squared. And so when we got here, 2L squared, I should delete that. When we got to this part, sorry for the confusion, when we got to 2L squared, we took the square root of both of these and got L root 2 for the hypotenuse. So whatever the leg is, you have square root of 2 for the hypotenuse. And but that's 45, 45, 90. Over here for 30, 60, 90, we have double. Where is it? Right here. This is the key for 30, 60, 90. Whatever the short side is, you double it, get the hypotenuse. You multiply it by square root of 3 to get the longer side, the side across from 60. Here, whatever the legs are, the hypotenuse is leg root 2. And that is what it's all about. So, see you in class.